Jason here from Mindset U, and we're all about bringing new things to the table when it comes to this podcast, because we don't know what the fuck we're doing. There's no rules in this bitch, okay? So we're going to talk about whatever you want, whatever we want, because we're going to spin it and let y'all know what we're going to talk about for 15 minutes. We're going to give you rapid fire stuff. They're the coaches. I'm the everyday guy. I'm going to challenge them because who the fuck are they to tell me what to do? They don't know me. They do know me. They've known me for a really long time, but that's not the point. The point is we're here to give you guys a fun podcast, and hopefully you learn some shit along the way. So join us. Hit us up on Instagram. Message us on Facebook. Send a carrier pigeon. Stop us in the street. Let us know what you want to talk about. I'm all for it. Unless I'm doing something illegal, then don't talk to me.
Hey guys, this is Jason from Mindset U, and the upstairs neighbor is vacuuming right now, and we're gonna work through it because we're professionals and we're trying to give you the best content possible with the shittiest situations happening to us. It's called personal growth, baby. We spun the wheel of life. I spun the wheel of life,
You did spin the wheel of life.
and our first thing was spirituality.
All right, so 5 minutes. You got your watch on?
You dressed up like that? You didn't wear a watch? Kind of server are you? What do you guys think about spirituality? I personally lost it when I was a child because my grandpa died. Straight up.
What do you mean?
I was super religious as a kid. Used to go to CCD and catechism all the time, and I was like, that's great, and like was all about going to church on Sundays. And then my grandpa passed away on the summer of 4th grade, and then I was like, God's not nice, and I don't like him, and I'm done with this shit. So then my mom made me go to CCD and get my communion and confirmation, and she kind of forced me.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I had to get homeschooled for it because I said Jesus was magic once, and they kicked me out. And then here I am now.
But is spirituality the same thing as religion? That's a great point. I think it's
part of it. Yeah,
definitely part of religion,
yeah,
but it can be independent.
yeah. Well, for me, I always connected my spirituality. It wasn't so much like, oh, like I'm not Catholic anymore, but it was like I don't believe in a higher power.
So to Moses' point about spirituality and religion, like there's that point that you talked about with
Yeah.
the higher power,
Yeah,
and then I think there's also the idea of, for me, in terms of connectedness, right? Like, I don't see spirituality as something that needs to have a storyline of higher power and so on and so forth. Honestly, I see spirituality as it's measurable by science. It's just the idea of us being connected, made from the same stuff that makes us, and that's our feeling like we're part of the same thing. We're part of one. I mean, we should just get into it because, like, what is spirituality, and when do people use it? Like, we often see it being used when things go to shit, right? When people go through something difficult. But I also think that, like, I remember in college, I had this one professor for philosophy where she spoke on how spirituality, insert the vacuum, how spirituality is used when first, like, athletes, and when they're actually in the game is when they feel the most connected, which is like that flow state later on figuring out. So I think of those moments like spirituality as well. Moments in meditation could be spiritual, but you're not necessarily praying towards anything or...
So I have the actual definition of spirituality pulled up real quick. So I think this goes to our points kind of real quick. So spirituality, it's a noun. It's the quality of being concerned with the human spirit or soul as opposed to material physical things. So yeah, I guess you were right in the sense that you were like, does spirituality have anything to do with religion?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think everything has something to do with something kind of thing, if that makes any sense. So spirituality does have its place in religion and stuff. But for the sake of this conversation, it doesn't have to be, it's not technically about religion, you know? And I think we're all spiritual in our own ways, even if we don't realize it or not. And we all have something that we're like, oh, you know, if you follow this path, if you try to be a good person, good things happen. And
Karma.
Like karma.
Karma is spirituality.
You know, or it's just a matter of, you know, it's like I make it a point that I might come off as a dick and joke around and stuff like that, but like I try to be a nice person to people that I don't know. I try to be nice to strangers as I possibly can, and not for the simple fact of like, oh, if I'm nice to people, something nice will happen to me. But it's just like, why not? Why not just be the good that you want to see in the world?
So what's the difference between morality and spirituality then in that context?
That's a good question.
Well, what is a moral?
So
Let's look it up.
yeah, let's look it up. Because to me, morality I had a class in college which was morality, I think it was called, and the professor would ask these crazy questions. He would be like, what happens if you have sex with a goat? And everyone in the class would be like, that's so wrong. What's wrong?
Well, it's like you are, bro.
What
Sure,
if
that's
what
probably
if
normal.
what if you enjoy it? It's like, it doesn't matter, the poor goat. And so people would move the conversation about the goat, and then the professor goes, what if the goat enjoyed it? And then it's like, yeah, but it's still wrong because so he'll keep pushing the boundary of whatever you define the edge of your boundary of, like, what is morality, what makes this right or wrong is the edge. And so you make this definition and then question it.
So that's a good point that you made there, because morality, definition-wise, it's principles concerning the distinction between right and wrong or good and bad behavior, which kind of goes back to a conversation that we had 2 episodes ago, where
Yeah, we
you
talked
brought
about
up the
right
fact that right and wrong, and you're like, is there such thing as right and wrong? And there isn't really. It depends on who you ask.
So do you have morals, Rances, since you don't really have right and wrong?
So that's actually what I was going to get to before, because you talked about, like, when I asked the question about morality, about like we all think there's a thing. I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason behind doing something and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think that we are, and it comes into the acceptance of what we are. It's like we are beings that are desperately searching for meaning and purpose and intention and all of that.
Like some wear wives' clothes.
What?
Like some wear wives' clothes, and others dress like normal people.
I think I just got it. The first time he said it, I was like, these words aren't lining up.
No, it took me a while because I was like, wait, what is Jay getting at? I'm like, oh, Rances wears his wife's clothes.
Okay. So the
You can't see his outfit, but it's tight. It's so tight.
So the idea is basically we're desperately searching for meaning. So therefore we're attaching meaning to things that don't necessarily have meaning. And to me, that boils down to a chemical connection in our brain in which we're trying to make sense so that we can make better predictions, so that we can have expectations in the world. And like we're like a simple machine in that sense. We're constantly looking for that meaning in order to have a desire for purpose. So it's like stepping out of the self for a moment to see that picture, and then stepping back in and realize I am a human being, so therefore I'm looking for purpose. So for me, it's like, yeah, there's a bunch of times where I'm like, oh, I'm looking for purpose behind this. I'm looking for the meaning behind this. And what does it mean? So on and so forth. That's me being in my humanity. And that's me being in my spirituality, if you want to call it that. But I also step back and have the awareness of like, none of it matters.
So isn't that spirituality in itself too? That like none of it matters. So religion does that in a way, where it's like God has a plan for you, right? So this is happening to you for a reason. Therefore, don't worry about it. Keep moving forward. So
but that in itself is what I'm talking about is the looking for purpose.
Is it looking for purpose? I don't know if it's looking for purpose more so than like more so of it being trying to make sense of the world. I don't know if purpose, I would say with meaning, I would agree that it helps create meaning, which then helps make sense of the world. Because like we need a storyline to follow in order to feel that we're moving forward or growing, or that we're doing something positive, whatever that means to you, in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's like the whole meaning idea is like we're looking we desperately need a meaning for things. So it's like there's a duality within me when it comes to these situations of like, okay, I am human, so I'm looking for this meaning, and then I'm aware of my need to search for a meaning. So for me, honestly, I feel like it lets me disconnect from things don't go according to plan. So it's like, remember, Rances, this is all made up. So then I'm like, okay, I can reset. Now let's pretend and make another meaning. Okay, great. This one does good, and we keep moving this way and make the adjustments like that.
So is spirituality bullshit?
I think everything's bullshit. Nothing really matters. I think we just try to do our best.
But not that it matters, but like, do humans need it?
I think we're genetically engineered to need it.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that point of like connection, like the meaning, the purpose of like, why am I doing this? Because like, when someone is in a suicidal state of depression, right? The opposite side of it.
You're like far from it, bro.
That's what you think.
You want to share?
You want to share?
I'm constantly on the edge of putting my head in the oven all the time. Just end it. Just fucking end sweet silence. Can't wait. I tell Ashley that all the time.
So what ignites that thought?
Probably my lack of spirituality. I don't have anything to hold on to, so I'm like, what's the point?
But isn't connecting with like your dog's part of like it being spiritual?
Yeah, but
like
they're not gonna be here. Yeah, but I look at my dogs as an extension of me. I've never felt a love as unconditional as like those dogs, which it sounds so white and so weird when I say it out loud. But having Indy for the last 11 years of my life taught me like unconditional love. Like he can literally shit on my bed. I'm like, it's okay, buddy. Like it's all right. I love you no matter what. He could fucking bite Ash, and I'm like, what did you do to fuck with Indy? like obviously you did something, kind of thing. No, but I think there's been periods of my life where I think I use humor a lot to disguise how I feel on the inside. Now, am I ever suicidal? I don't think so. Have I thought about it a few times? Oh yeah, but I think it's kind of normal. I think I think almost everybody in one stage or another. You ever like find yourself driving your car and you're like, I could just fucking go right into this meeting right now, and like, what would happen?
Mm-hmm.
It's like that weird thing, like, what would happen if I just fucking decided to this?
But I also think that's part of spirituality.
I think so too. I was gonna say with that is like, for me, that meaning, purpose, like for me, something that's very important to me is legacy, right?
Yeah.
And then when I filter it through entirely, I'm like, it doesn't even matter. Like everything's gonna be forgotten. We're an entire planet. It's just a speck of dust.
Try so hard not to find jokes to make about to connect your outfit to anything you say right now. Sorry, continue.
So then you're understanding, essentially what I understand too is like it always comes back down to death when you think about spirituality.
Yeah.
So like, what does life look like without me here? Right. So then you start thinking about all of the, like, even to your dog, right?
Yeah.
Like Indy, what happens if you die?
Yeah.
Like, how does Indy react? How does he navigate the world now?
As long as Ashley's there, as long as there's somebody there to like love him and feed him, like I'm sure he'll be like, where's Dad? For a second. But he's a fucking. I think we attach emotions to the animals and stuff like that too.
So then can we agree that spirituality is essentially just
a coping mechanism for life?
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah.
I think I could 110% be like, it's a coping mechanism.
That's how we cope with life.
Yeah.
When you were saying about like the death thing, that's what I was going to. It's for me, I think about my death every single day.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Think about, okay, and again, tying it to that whole legacy thing, it's like, all right, if I died today, like, what does my legacy look like? Is there an impact? Is there something? So that idea of like, again, trying to find meaning of what all this means and so on and so forth, and our lives, right? Because it could be pretty scary to just be like, it doesn't mean anything. There's no purpose. Might as well just die now, right? Like that is the legit thought of many individuals.
Yeah.
And also something that pushes many individuals to suicide.
Yeah. I think one of the things I always like when I start thinking like that, I always think about my parents. Because I'm like, they're the ones who, I mean, I'm sure, like, you know, my friends and stuff like that and my loved ones are like, oh, fuck, you know, Jay's gone. That's really sad. But, like, the ramifications of what it would do to my parents is what always, like, my dad would go back to drinking. And, like, that's, I don't ever want to see that, you know. My mom would have a mental breakdown. She would, honestly, they would probably send her to a fucking mental institution and I killed myself. I think she would absolutely lose her mind. So those are the things that, like, that kind of stopped me from ever, like, never self-harming, but I've always been like, you're never going to do that, but, like, that's just not in the cards, you know? So that's, I think, yeah, that's one of the few things that ever stopped me from ever doing anything like that, because I've had serious thoughts about that before when I was younger.
I didn't know that about you.
I don't talk about that stuff with nobody, you know? It wasn't anything like I was like, oh, I look at a bridge, I'm like, I'm gonna jump off that bitch, you know? It wasn't anything like that, but there's a few times where I'll look in the mirror like, I don't like you, you know?
Rances, I got a question, because like I've struggled with that before too, like those thoughts, but like I don't think nobody ever, like, I don't even know if you had those thoughts of like ending it for yourself. Like, I'm surprised that Jay had that, because I would have never thought that Jay would think that way.
Yeah.
So then I'm like, hey, shit, does Rances ever think that way?
I think of it from the side that I expressed, like me dying right now, you know, not from the aspect of like I'm going to cause it, but that anything can happen in the moment. So not necessarily in that framework.
Yeah.
I had an experience when I was living in New York, so I must have been below 9 years old. I was crossing the street, and a car almost hit me, a taxi cab. And in this moment, this scenario, I felt like I got a second chance, right? And in my mind, my kid mind at the time, I was like, I think I died. One version of me died just now, and now I have another version of me that didn't die. And this version of like now what's it called? Multiverse type of thing. I didn't know what that was, but that's the idea that I came with. And then after that, I just started seeing things from that manner. I was like, everything has a divergence. Every experience I go through, there's an opportunity to do this. There's an opportunity to do that. And this has this type of impact, this to have this type of impact. And that's basically how where I latched onto having that idea of legacy, because it was like, okay, it's basically like, what is those games called? The first person that you're going through a storyline.
RPGs?
Yeah.
Oh, the Tamagotchi?
Oh my God. Where you can like pick you good or evil and so on and so forth. Like,
Oh, like Fable, that game.
Yeah,
Fable,
yeah.
I just remember Hector playing that.
yeah, that's the only way I know.
Same. I never played it before.
But like that idea, like I've always looked at my life since that moment as that way. It's like, okay, I can choose to do it this way. I can choose to do it that way. To me, that's very chaotic. So I latch on to the idea of, okay, how do I make this decision? Legacy. Cool. Legacy is how I make this decision. Which one has a greater impact? And that's how I move forward. And then when I had my very close friend, Arlene, you guys all know her, pass away in 2015, right after my daughter was born. To me, that was a big, like, shocker, because it was like, yeah, I know older people who have passed away, but someone our age, like we were,
It's rough.
you know, at the time, 29, something along that line.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is not supposed to happen, right? And that supposed to idea came in which then had me question my perspective on a lot of things. And for me, I went further into like understanding the science behind the emotions I'm feeling and the connections I'm feeling, and then looking into like how things are connected, like quantum physics, and how we have part of basically stars inside of our cells, and how that made it to this planet and is connected to stuff that's not even found in this planet, and like all these ideas of like, oh, okay, this brings me peace about my existence by understanding that connection.
So I think that's the next point I wanted to talk about, was how spirituality, the practice of spirituality, is very different. So he said brings peace, and I think about you and boxing,
Yeah.
and how boxing, and that's my question to you, how does boxing bring peace into your life, if it does that?
It totally does. And I equate it to the same thing that made me fall in love with skateboarding, which was like skating in traffic, because like it's dangerous, and like, so you have to focus. There's nothing else you can think about. My mind goes blank aside from the task that's on hand. And I think that's what I love so much about boxing, is that it's like, all right, I'm sparring with somebody. I have no time to think about my life. I have no time to think about anything else. It's just here and now. I have somebody in front of me who's trying to hit me in the face. How do I avoid that?
So being in the present,
Being in the present. So
which is what prayer does, what meditation does, what any of those
it's just
things
another
do.
form of that to me. So like, I always joke with people, I'm like, it's my therapy. Like I take it real serious now, where I'm not in a good mood if I don't get to go to the gym. Even if it's just to hit the heavy bag or just jump rope, it's just being there, and so I have something to focus on that has nothing to do with work, life. It's just my time. It's just,
So the practice of spirituality is essentially trying to be present, because like I think about people that go to church, right? And people who are like really involved in church, they're like, there's the priest or whatever, the preacher talking up on the front, and they're like singing and whatever, and you feel connected to this thing that brings you in the present moment. But then I think about people who aren't religious, and you see them connect in some other way,
yeah.
whether it be through a sport, whether it be through like yoga, meditation, whatever,
Yeah.
running.
I think as humans, we're all, like you said before, we're all searching for some sort of connection, whether it's physical with another human being, or just with yourself. Like, you just need to feel connected to something bigger than you.
This is also going back into religion. Like, I don't have anything against religion personally. Like, I don't think it's
Yeah.
problem in the world and stuff. It's a systematized spirituality. That's the way I see it. And for that aspect of like putting all of these things together, and giving community a place where you can connect and have these moments of flow and presence and all of that. My only challenge would be towards religion, any type of religion, is when the ego becomes present of this can only happen within this realm, right? And it just I think it happens naturally where that ego takes place, because I have this experience here, and therefore this means that here is the right place. So then the community as a whole starts to reject anything else that's not this, because of their personas, which is the for me the power of having perspective on all possibilities, right? If someone goes out and experiences something, they go to India in an ashram and have an experience. They have an experience in a Catholic church. They have an experience in some satanic ritual. Like all of it, like it's like, oh, it's not these things. This is things that are available within me, and these different practices allow me to access it. I think that is, for me, my key understanding of what spirituality is.
I think that's a good point, from what I can remember of what you just said.
Oh man, all that weed, bro.
No weed today. No weed at all. Just pre-workout and no food.
I don't think it's the weed, because sometimes I get lost too, and I don't smoke weed.
Talking to you sometimes is like smoking weed, buddy. I don't know if you realize that. Oh, once again, don't forget to follow us on YouTube at Beta Project. Not Mindset U. You won't find us there. Because that's just how life works. You gotta go looking for stuff. You know, we can't make it easy for you. We can't do everything for you. It's bad enough we're here on Super Bowl Sunday. For the sake of this argument, I like football. But like, subscribe. And don't forget to comment on our shit, all right? I'm trying to get monetized. I'm trying to quit my job so that this can be my full-time job. And I could actually be a real producer, not just some fucking makeshift producer.